Talitha's a great girl. On air, she was always calm and professional, but it was a facade. She was battling an addiction she'd had since she was a teenager, and I had no idea. This is her story.
About time she said, I told Pam his biological clock is ticking.
Seeing Talitha today, it's just so heartwarming, and I can think of my daughter now, block out the bad parts and think, my goodness, she's come such a long way. I am so proud of her.
So your mum said that you're 37.5 weeks.
36 and a half weeks.
I'm 36.
But I had the last scan yesterday and so it's a big baby.
There were times when I was worried that she wouldn't make it.
Hi everybody, I'm Kay. We're all here to celebrate my beautiful girl's looming birth.
It's really exciting. Really, really exciting. I've waited a long time for this. I had 3 years under my belt before I became pregnant, so I was used to saying, no, I won't have a drink. Sometimes I'll just say, no, I'm an alcoholic, thanks, and see the reaction. That gets people, yeah. Near the end, I was a bit of a different person. That whole facade of being the bright, bubbly, shiny Talitha, the wheels were sort of falling off. I didn't realise it, but people were starting to recognise that. Trying to hold it all together was becoming a really hard act. I think then it was starting to really dawn on me that if I didn't stop, things were going to get really bad. I ended up in hospital on a weekend and got my stomach pumped and released from hospital on a Sunday morning, go back to work trying to pretend everything was normal on a Monday. That was no longer sustainable.
An elderly man has died after his house caught fire in Melbourne overnight.
Television's this bright, shiny, fabulous facade. You when you're a news presenter, you put on a mask. Talitha fooled everyone. Everyone. Bosses, the audience, everybody, until the drinking escalated to a point where she couldn't hide it anymore.
I was a really shy child and quite introverted, and I became even more so, I think, after my parents divorced, because I wanted to be strong for them. I didn't want anyone to realise that I was upset. I was so embarrassed about being shy. There was some sort of shame attached to it. What if people discover I'm anxious? What if people discover that I'm actually shy?
Talitha used to live in Shepparton with her dad, who she absolutely adores, and then she decided to move up with her mum on the Gold Coast and finish her high school up there. So that's when we met, when she was 13. She didn't look like a typical 13-year-old. She was already quite pretty, and then the fact that she was probably a good foot taller than everyone else in her grade, she really sort of stood out. I don't think Talitha was ever really comfortable with people noticing her. As soon as the spotlight came upon her, you could see that she slowly would start to sort of retract.
I sort of started to come out of my shell in my mid-teens, I think. My first drink was when I was 14 years old. We were going to a school social, and I remember drinking 3 cans of vodka and something mixed. Awful. Alcohol made me feel like I wasn't that shy girl anymore, that I had the confidence, that I didn't have to be reserved, and it just made me feel good. And, from that point, I sort of realised that I could be that person if I had alcohol. At that stage, I was binge drinking quite frequently. It'd be 2 or 3 times a week, and just remembering wanting to be wiped out, it's, numbing, kind of a numbing effect.
She used to hide things from me. I didn't know what to look for because I didn't think there was anything wrong. I didn't think there was anything going on. I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware at all.
She really excelled at English. It was such a natural thing for her to write. Talitha finished university, got her first gig up in Cairns, up there being a journalist, a reporter, and yeah, she just loved it.
There's another accountability issue for the Premier today. It's his use of the government jet to fly down to Sydney to watch the State of Origin football.
She was picked up down in Channel 7 in Brisbane to be weather girl as well as a journalist, and she was absolutely chuffed at the promotion.
Live television, you know, your first live cross is just up there with heart surgery and Last Judgment. Such an awful feeling. And you've got this countdown in your ear, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Well, Mark, there have been a number of promises in the past about the M4 East being built, which some say is Sydney's most urgent motorway, but it's probably still a little bit too early to start getting excited. Tony Abbott still needs to be elected first. We need to vote him in before any of this happens. Back to you.
OK, Talitha, thank you.
I think to deal with the anxiety that I would feel on a daily basis, I was drinking. It was so confronting for me, and it was the way I dealt with my anxiety and the fear. Being an introverted young girl and being thrust into this, you know, world of television, live television, and that's how I dealt with it.
There was a time that I went to Brisbane and there was a box of Veuve Clicquot champagne. We said, oh, I'll pop one in the fridge for us and we'll just have a bottle of champagne. I said, oh, how lovely. And then another bottle went in and then another bottle went in. She would have had at least 3 bottles of champagne, at least. I felt as if I had to say something because it wasn't right. Talitha would get quite defensive and she'd turn it into a debate or, well, you know, what's wrong? Why is this any different to the way you're drinking?
I used it as a stress release. I'd go for a drink with friends after work and at midnight I'm still there, you know, at 3 a.m. I'm still there. And then I'm fighting a hangover the next morning, pretending that everything's fine and fronting up to work, you know, with that alter ego.
I'd come home and watch her on television reporting and the weather, and she was perfect. And I used to think to myself, wow.
Wow, they're really putting on a spectacular show for us today.
Work, thankfully, seemed to be a leveller for me.
And I've been given the privilege of releasing her from the cage.
I was always able to, you know, click into that, I'm fine, no, I'm good, I'm not hungover. It wouldn't matter, you know, if I'd had 4 bottles of wine the night before. I just had this mental thing in my head that I had to be in character, and I was fine, I could do it. And some of my best work days were those days, strangely.
When she'd pass out, I'd say, come on, Tup, time to go to bed. Oh, Mum, I don't want to go to bed, I want another drink. It was awful to see your child out of control and not being able to do anything about it. She had to make the decision herself. I couldn't do anything about it, which was devastating. Talitha was in a relationship with another man in Brisbane and it wasn't going well.
I got a message and it was early hours of the morning, and because I was pregnant, I was going up to the bathroom and saw it, and I could tell that she had been drinking by the sounds of things all night. She just kept saying she was tired and didn't want to be living the life that she was living and things like this. And then I asked her if she'd taken anything, and she said yes, she had. And that's when I knew that it wasn't good. The message wasn't right, and she wasn't in a good space. And I just kept her on the phone, and then with my other phone, I called an ambulance.
She said, Kay, I've just had a phone call from Talitha. She's overdosed. They'd pumped her stomach and She was, oh, hi, Mum. You know, she was very dopey, and I just lost it. I just thought, oh my God, I could have lost you. She said, oh, Mum, I will never do that to you. But she said, I was in a dark place. I was drinking too much. I didn't think there was a way out.
It was a cry for help. She wasn't giving up. It was a way for Talitha to break away from that unhealthy relationship with her partner.
I think something like 65,000 people are hospitalised with alcohol-related injuries every year. You know, I was just one of those.
Weekends in the valley aren't pretty. For many, they're often a blur, as they used to be for 23-year-old Chris Rain. But one hangover too many prompted a change.
I first met Talitha because she wanted to do a story on it, Hello Sunday Morning. Yeah, it was something in her that really wanted to cover it. You know, I don't think we had any real news to cover.
He took a year off drinking, documenting his experience on a blog he named Hello Sunday Morning.
I learned that we don't need alcohol for so many reasons that we think we do. You know, we don't need it to be confident or to talk to people or to dance.
His experiment sparked intrigue and 1,500 online followers, many choosing a 6 or 12-month period without alcohol.
I looked at him and I thought, wow, this guy can actually not drink and be okay, you know? Well, then maybe there is hope for me. And then I was offered a job in Sydney. And when I got that, I sort of thought, oh, thank God I can move to a different place, a different city where no one knows me. I can stop this drinking, I can slow it down.
Let's go live to Talitha Cummins now outside the Opera House. Talitha, any sign of Mary there as yet?
Not just yet, Mark, but the royal couple will.
Very soon after I arrived in Sydney, I recognised that that just wasn't the case. Drinking went from being a social thing to me really isolating.
She was always really professional on air, and to the outside world, you couldn't tell.
Time to get some news. Here's Talitha.
Thank you, Andrew, and good morning.
A few people were gossiping in the newsroom about, you know, how out of it she would get at functions. And even then, I don't think we realised what the extent of the problem was until much later.
I've done things that I'm not proud of, and I've done things that I probably won't remember or ever know that I've done because I simply can't remember. Near the end, I woke up one day 4 or 5 houses down in their front yard with my keys in, you know, the person's front door. So I'd obviously tried to get into the house thinking it was mine and then passed out. Just the shame around an incident like that is so overwhelming. I remember sitting on the couch for the rest of the day. I think it was a day off work, and just wanting to die and not wanting to face the world.
I think the tipping point for Talitha was when she called in to work sick 2 days in a row on a weekend. She just didn't turn up.
I remember getting up a few times and looking at my phone, and there'd be 20 missed phone calls there, and it's 10:30 and I'd meant to be at work at 9 o'clock. I walked in and I was just so nervous, so anxious, and the chief of staff there sat me down and she said, "You're not okay, are you?" And I just said no. And that's when I sort of had the realisation that my life was going off the rails. I cried and I just, you know, I said, I need help. I actually can't do this anymore. And she was amazing. She was trying to organise people, you know, counsellors and things like that for me.
I think the threat of losing her job got Talitha to do something, got her into AA. Made her sober up. And I think that was a really big realisation for her.
I thought I portrayed this squeaky clean image at work and everything was good and fine and rosy. To find out that that was not the case was really quite frightening to me and really rocked my world.
She said, "Mum, I'm an alcoholic." And I said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous." And she said, "Mum, I'm an alcoholic." And I said, "No, Talitha. I thought the alcoholics were the old bag men in the parks. That's how naive I was."
I think she was just in denial, as I was. I think this is the modern face of an alcoholic. Professional, educated, high-functioning. You know, I hit rock bottom, but it could have been much worse. I think it's just we really need to look at that label and reassess. Despite signing up with Hello Sunday Morning and AA, I was still obsessed with alcohol. I couldn't think about anything else. I didn't socialise, I didn't go out. I isolated myself even more. I had a particular drug which made you violently ill if you drank on it. That was like an insurance policy. Obviously, people drink for a reason, and I was drinking to self-medicate and as a social lubricant. But it wasn't until much later that I sort of put the pieces together with psychologists. I started medication for depression, quite severe depression. I'm more than happy to take a tablet every day and, you know, not have to self-medicate and drink myself into oblivion I used to. I had the Hello Sunday Morning keeping me, you know, accountable. It's like an online community where you blog and they help you get through it. And then I had the AA, where I went to a meeting every day for 90 days. I wasn't really ready to go public with it. I'd only just accepted myself that I may have a problem. And so I put my first blog down. It was a really cathartic experience. I was a big drinker. Anyone who knows me knows that. I drank to commiserate, to celebrate, but in the last 4 years it turned ugly, really embarrassingly ugly. I didn't realise that it had copied to Facebook, and it ended up on my Facebook page.
I remember feeling like, oh shit, this is now really public. I hope she's okay with it. You know, it's a big thing to come out with. Initially I was shocked and I wanted to delete it. It wasn't really something that I was ready to come out to the world with. Just seeing the responses that were there, I was quite amazed. People who had been going through the same thing, people saying that my story resonated with them and they could see themselves in that. There were people who were binge drinking on a regular basis on the weekends. There were mothers who would start drinking in the afternoon, and high-profile people, reformed alcoholics who had been sober for, you know, a number of years. And I thought, wow, this could actually really help people. So I left it there.
I think the reaction at 7 after that blog was that Talitha was very brave. From the few naysayers that there was that, yeah, you know, told you so, and some unkind comments, but I think the overwhelming reaction was that it was a really courageous thing for her to do.
Her posting that, 800 people signed up, you know, as soon as she did that. You understand the depth of what Talitha's gone through, and you multiply that by 800 different families, 800 different conversations with people. That's huge.
As professionals do, they'd made it look easy.
Work without a hangover was just so much better.
There's not a puff of wind out here on the Derwent this morning, but they've managed to...
I was doing lots of news reading. There were elements that were, where I was really noticing that things were turning around.
Clear skies and fresh snow at Victoria's Mount Buller means...
3 months into my sobriety, a friend introduced me to a man named Ben.
I didn't know much, so good on Google. Nothing's sacred these days, so found out that she was a reporter and a newsreader and a weather person.
That was my first dating process without drinking. It was terrifying. It was terrifying. I told him about my drinking issues probably, I think it was the 3rd or 4th date.
We actually went for a run together on New Year's Day. And then from that moment, I thought I really want to make a go of this relationship. And I decided from that day not to have a drink again.
And I just couldn't believe it, Not only did it show what an amazing human he was, but it gave me a lot of strength knowing that there was someone next to me helping me.
It was only less than 12 months into our relationship that we were engaged, even though, yes, she may have been a recovering alcoholic with depression. She was still the most thoughtful, strong, well put together person I'd ever met, and it was the person I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. I knew then.
I was already starting to get some anxiety about the wedding. The thought of me sitting at a bridal table and having all of these people out in front of me drinking.
And obviously she was still not quite confident with where she was at. So when they decided to elope, she was so happy.
Any stress I can shoulder the load for, I want to do so, because I guess it's an irrational fear of mine maybe, that it may drive her to drink, and I don't ever want to do that.
It was a beautiful New York day. We got married on Bow Bridge. By the end of the ceremony, this big group of people had gathered around us and was cheering.
Chest nice and high, shoulders back. All right, great work.
Ben has been in the fitness industry for a long time and puts all of his heart and soul into that. Works very hard.
3, good, remember to breathe.
His influence through his health and fitness has really helped me along the way, and it's given me a focal point apart from not just my recovery, but it's given me something healthy to focus on. And I have to exercise every day now, otherwise mentally I'm unhappy.
All right, that's great work.
To think that 5 years ago I couldn't even turn up to work, and things are very different now, and I'm about to look after another little human and so excited about it. My plus 25 kilos. I was a little bit concerned, health-wise about the baby.
Breathe out on the way up, squeezing through the glutes.
But being 4 years sober, thankfully having that well behind me, everything's looking good. It's quite a relief to know that I haven't, passed anything on.
It's T's last day.
Talitha goes on maternity leave today.
Thank you very much.
We're so excited.
So I was very lucky with the amount of alcohol that I was drinking to escape with a clean check of health.
Is he waking up? He's just stretching, yawning as he does, pulling faces.
Oliver was born a few weeks ago, and he's a healthy and a very happy baby. He's quite chilled.
Is he awake? Yeah, he's asleep.
I'm just loving being a mother. I feel like I'm at the happiest point in my life.
Hello, see the swans? They're pretty, aren't they?
With alcoholism and recovery, there is no finishing line. It's ongoing. Recovery will be always and forever There are still people in AA that I see who are 27 years sober and they're still coming there because they still have the same issues to deal with.
Hello, Mr. Swan.
We've got no food for you.
No.
I go through stages where I think, yes, I'm through this, it's fine. But as quick as that, temptation will come back to me.
I can remember one time we were driving in Byron Bay. We were away for Christmas, New Year. And she said to me, wouldn't it be great just to have a massive party? I would love if I could only drink one more time, why don't we just have a really big party, just a massive bender, and then I promise I will never drink again. And I just said, that's the worst idea I have ever heard. What's the matter with you? You know, we got into a bit of an argument, and it was like a different person in the car with me. And then after 10 minutes to and froing, she said, look, I'm an alcoholic, and that's how we think. I don't see her fighting it publicly, but she still fights it internally every day.
I think going public, it has actually helped me in a way. I still have days now where I think, have I done the right thing?
Ollie.
But I believe it is. From the responses I've had, I think it's helping people.
Hey, little man. Want to go for a walk?
If that's something I can do with 4 years under my belt, then that's what I want to do.
Drop it. Gosh, Bubba. You're lucky to be up here, young man.
And a viewer from Channel 7 sent this in. So lovely. This little blanket.
Oh.
And there's
a little beanie.
as
Oh
well.
my gosh, look at that.
So cute.
Oh my goodness me.
Don't fit at the moment.
Your own table.
And these are all from our friends in New York. They sent across.
They're beautiful. Oh gosh, spoilt. Are they? Okay. Oops.
Sorry, buddy.
He's not worried.